10. Description of avatars given by Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is a very special person because he witnesses all avatars. And not once, many times. Because it is said that in one day of Brahma there are 1000 yuga cycles. And in every day of Brahma, all these avatars come. So you must see them for thousands and thousands of times, all of them. So he is quite a fortunate person, because every day he sees the Lord. And not once, many times. Because in one day of Brahma, everybody comes. Vamandev comes, Kurma comes, Lord Krishna also, Narsimhadev, Kalki, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he must have a very hectic program, receiving so many avatars every day. If you have one celebrity coming in one day, that itself is quite occupying. Imagine for Brahma, because all these avatars are coming in his universe. So he has to make sure that everything is proper for them. They are received nicely and they get a good impression. Otherwise, they can throw him out of his post. So, it's quite a special person. And he must see a lot of pastimes. Because every day they come, it's not that every day they do the same thing. They must be doing something different also. So he must have a lot of pastimes witnessed. And therefore he says that it is not possible to describe Lord's pastimes, even if one has the heads of Lord Shesha, because they are continuously going on. So his description therefore is direct description, not borrowed, not heard, but witnessed. Because many times when these avatars come, he also accompanies them, especially the short avatars. Like when Narsimhadev comes, then Brahma is also there. We will see he was also praying. When Vamandev comes, and Kurma, when these avatars come, because they don't stay for very long. They come for a very short. So Lord Brahma also accompanies them. It's like when big man comes, then the local authorities also join him. So Brahma also comes and prays to them. So he has witnessed all this and he is describing about them. So in this verse he is talking about Lord Rishabdev. Rishabh means the best. Rishabh and Vrishabh, these two words in Sanskrit are used to signify the best. So he is the best, therefore he is called the best. It's like Arjuna is sometimes called Bhartarshabha, means best in the Bharata dynasty. So Lord is called simply the best. So he says, Nabhe rasau rishabha asha sudevi sunu yovai chachara samudra jada yoga charyam yat padhansam vrishya padamamananti swastha prashanta karana parimukta sangha. Says that Lord Rishabdev, he appeared from King Nabhi and his wife Sudevi. And the specific characteristic of Rishabdev was that towards the end of his life, he engaged in Jada Yoga. Jada Yoga means to behave like an idiot. So really speaking, if you want to translate Jada Yoga, it would be translated as idiot yoga. So this is yoga which is very special. Usually the yogis, they are smart people, intelligent, enlightened, they can speak eloquently and behave properly. But in this yoga, he behaved like an idiot or a madman. So as we will read later on, the description will come that he was lying down just like a crazy fellow. His hairs were disheveled, he had no clothes on his body. They don't even clean their body, no taking bath. And if they get the food, they eat. If they don't get, also no problem. It is as if they are not existing in the body, they don't care about the body at all. It's like sometimes you see some mad people. So he also behaved like that. And the sages, they call this as the position of Paramhansa. That the person is so elevated that he has no contact with his own body. Sometimes you hear people saying that he has lost touch with himself. So this is a person who is in complete touch with himself and has lost all touch with the body. And therefore it doesn't matter what happens to the body. So this is a very difficult path, and it is not to be imitated by anybody else, nor it is possible to imitate it. So some people may try to imitate, but they will be only hypocrites. He was swastha, he was situated in his own self, means he was in touch with himself. That is the meaning of swastha. And prashanta karna, his senses were not disturbed by anything. Hunger, thirst, sleep, bodily urges, they did not bother him. And parimukta sangha, he was absolutely free from any attachment to anything. So this was the behavior. This, of course, he manifested in last part of his life. Before that he also ruled, and he had 100 sons. He gave very nice instructions to his sons. Out of them, the chief one was Bharat, who became king after him. And India derives its name from him, called Bharata. So, yes, close the pump.
Yeah.
So, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Rishabha Avatara, the incarnation of Rishabha is described here. Nabhe Sakashat Asaya Bhuta. He took birth from Nabhi. Sudevya, Meru Devya, Sunu. And mother's name was Sudevi, who is also called Meru Devi. Jadavad Yogacharyam. He practiced, or he depicted his behavior like a mentally deranged person. Yasya Paramhansam Param Chinnam. And this is one state of Paramhansa. Rishabhas Rishya Avananti Abhyasanti. So some sages, they practice it. Rishabha Kidrasha. And what was the state of Rishabdev? It says Swasmineva Tishtati iti swastha. He was situated in his own self. Means He was not in contact with the body or bodily needs. Atra samapta punar atma ta doshascha idam eva vyakhyam. Now he is explaining something which is little difficult to understand. It is according to the rules of poetics. According to the rules of poetics, this verse seems to have some defect. And the defect is called samapt punarapt. That's something, there is a sentence, you say Ram is a very beautiful person. So this makes a sentence. And then afterwards you say truthful. So that becomes a defect. Because when you say Ram is a beautiful person, then statement has complete sense, it comes to an end. And now when you say truthful, then you have to again go back and apply this word as part of the sentence. Either you say Ram is a very beautiful and truthful person, but once you say he is a beautiful person, then the statement comes to an end. And now if you say something more about Ram, which has to be made part of the sentence, then that becomes a defect. So in Sahitya, in poetics, it is called Samapt Punarapt Dos. That the sentence is already over. If you see this verse, then it says Nabhe Risho Asau Rishabha Asa Sudevi Sunu, that he was born from Rishabh and Sudevi. And Chachara Samudriga Jada Yoga Charyam, he engaged in Jada Yoga. Yet Paramhansa Rishyam Padam Amananti. And the rishis, the sages, they practice this path. And so basically you can make three sentences up to here. One is that he was born from from Sudevi and Nabhi. Another is that he engaged in Yogacharya, Jada Yoga. And third is that this path called Paramhansa is followed by sages. And after that, there are three adjectives: Swastha, Prashantakarana, Parimukta Sangha. Now these three are the adjectives for Lord Rishabdev. That this Rishabdev, he is Swastha, he is healthy or situated in himself. He is Prashantakarana, his senses are under control, and Parimukta Sangha, he is free from any attachment. So now when these sentences are already made, these three adjectives, how you will fit them, you have to again go back. So in Sanskrit they have rules, and of course they are rule of language, that once you have used a word once in the sentence, and then you try to again bring another word into it, then it becomes cumbersome, problematic, how to fit it. So from poetic point of view, therefore it is a defect. So he is trying to explain that how this is not a defect. Something technical, it's nothing to do with philosophy. Yasya paramhansyam rishya amananti tesu rishishu parimukta sangaime mat paramhansyam na janantu iti tesu priti rahita. He is saying that among the Paramhansas, sages, those who try to practice this, those who are Parimukta Sangha, devoid of attachment, they really don't understand my Paramhansa state. And therefore, they are devoid of love. Atevate bhrashta babhu iti tatra katha drashtavya. And therefore they became fallen. This story is described elsewhere. Because there are many people who try to imitate this. So the sense here is that you don't have to put this along with Rishabdev, but you have to make another sentence. And that sentence shows that those who try to practice this path, they have not really understood. Because this is not something you have to practice. The way Rishabdev was behaving, it is not that you can practice it. He was in that mental state. But if somebody tries to practice like an avdhuta, then he will fall down. Because he is not on that platform, he is really not that elevated. Means he is still having influence of his own body and senses. He is still under their effect. But he tries to act as if he is not like that. So this way he will act artificially. And when he will act artificially, then one day he will fall down. Like many times people, they come to spiritual life and they try to suppress their feeling. They want to imitate somebody and therefore they don't want to get married. They take sannyas. We have seen many examples. So they are not really qualified to be a sannyasi. They are not free from the desire to enjoy. But they imitate somebody and then they suppress their feelings. So then what happens? That after some time, they come down. Because whatever you suppress, it all goes inside your unconscious mind. And one day, it will come out. Because you cannot suppress it for a very long time. You may have knowledge and understanding and try to keep it under your control, but whenever your mind will become weak and some opportunity will come, then you will deviate. So this renunciation has to come along with the qualification. So this is what it is described here, that those Paramahansa or the sages who try to follow this path of Paramahansa, then they fall down. So the story is described somewhere. So this is how he explains that there is no defect of Punarapta, Samapta Punarapta. There are actually 4 sentences he is making. I am not trying to apply these 3 adjectives with the previous sentence. Then next he talks about Hayagriva incarnation. Satre mamasa bhagavan hayasira satho sakshat sayagya purushastapaniya varna chando mayo makamayo akhila devatatma vacho babhurusti swastosya nastaha. Says that Lord himself appeared in my sacrifice. Brahma performed some sacrifice, and in that sacrifice Lord appeared as Hayagriva. Means he had the head of a horse and body of a man. So it's quite strange that the lower part is like a human being and the upper part is a horse. So he is called Hayagriva. Haya means horse and Griva means neck. In Madhva Sampradaya they worship Hayagriva very much because he is supposed to give knowledge. This verse says that the Vedas appeared from the nostrils of Hayagriva. So Lord appeared in the sacrifice of Brahma and he is called here as Yagya Purusha. All the sacrifices are meant for his pleasure. And Tapaniya Varna, he was very fair in color. Chando Mayo Makhamayo Akhila Devatatma. He was the personification of the Vedas, personification of the sacrifices, and also the embodiment of all the devatas, the demigods. They all existed in him. And vacho babhuvu usati swasto asya nasta. And from his breath appeared the Vedas in the beautiful form. So this is the story about Hayagriva. Hayagriva avataramaha satre yagye asa avirbhavu. He appeared in the satra or sacrifice. Asya hasrishna swasto niswasta nasta nasapita pusti kamniya vedalakshana vacho babhu utpatyanta. And from his breath came out the Vedas. Atra chanda iti visheshana trayena karma kanda, jnana kanda, devta kanda sambandhena shruti iti gamyate. So there are three things which are mentioned here, that he is Chandamaya, Makhamaya and Devtatma. Chanda means the Vedas, which refer to the Karma Kanda. And Makhamaya, the sacrifices, and Devta. So sometimes Vedas are divided in three parts. There is Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda and Devta Kanda, which is also called the Upasana Kanda. Let's talk about the rituals, and there is talk about knowledge, the Upanishadic part, and there is also a lot of talk about worship, Upasana. So he says that these three things, this Devta Kanda means the Upasana, and Makhamaya means the Karma Kanda part, and Chandamaya means the Gyan or knowledge part. So he says that all three parts they are within the Lord. Because most people, they want to perform sacrifices for material gains. And then there are some who are interested in knowledge. And the other, they are interested in devotion. So these are the three prominent processes which are described in the Vedas. Amritmaya ityatra makhamaya ityatra patha kuchit. So in some places the word Amritmaya is mentioned, in another place Makhamaya. So if it is Amritmaya, then Amritmaya refers to the Jnana Kanda. Then the next story is about the Matsya avatar. Matsyo yugant samaye manunopalabdha shoni mayo nikila jiva nikaya kyataha visansvita nurubhaye salile mukhan me adaya tatra vijahar havena margam. Matsya avatar has its story described in Bhagavatam. It says when it was time for the end of Yuga cycle, and there was devastation. And at that time, King Satyavrat, who became the next Manu, Vavasvat Manu, who is the Manu now at present, he got one fish in his hand and he went to the river and he wanted to do some oblations. So as he took water in his palms, one fish came. And then he wanted to throw it back, but the fish spoke and says, please don't throw me away, I am under your shelter. So this Satyavrati was surprised that fish was speaking. So he brought him home, and then he was going on increasing in size, like Varahadev, who came out from the nostril of Brahma, and then he was increasing. So this fish was also increasing. And then he became very big and it has to be thrown into the ocean. Then Matsyadev, he told to King Satyavrat that on 7th day there is going to be a deluge. And this story of deluge is found in all scriptures. So he says that you should collect all the seeds and I will come with a boat and he put everything on that. So as he has predicted, there was a deluge, heavy rain and water came, and everything was flooded all around. Then Lord Matsya Avatar came, and king, he kept all these articles, seeds, one cow, one goat, one buffalo, one elephant, and camel. I don't know if he kept some like bricks, etc. But grains, dals, all these things he took in the boat, and he tied the boat to the horn. The fish was special, it had one horn. And then king sat in it, and other sages also came. And then Matsya Avatar, he spoke to Satyavrata. And that knowledge is described in Matsya Purana, spoken by Lord Matsya Dev. So that is the specific characteristic of Matsya Avatar. Matsyo Yuganta Samye Manano Upalabdha Shoni Mayo Nikhila Jeev Nikaya Keta. And this boat represented earth. And all the living beings took shelter of it. So just as earth is the shelter of all of us, we live on it. So everybody came in that boat. And Viswansitan Urubhaye Salile Mukhan me Adaya Tatra Vijahar hai Vedamarga. Seems Brahma was also there somewhere, and the Vedas fell out from his mouth. There was an accident. And when they fell out, they fell into the water, which was very terrific, because huge waves of water were flowing, and now who wants to jump and catch them? So he says when they fell into the water from Brahma's mouth, then Lord Fish, Matsya, he caught them, because fish has no problem with water, this is his house. So he picked up the Vedas and then he played with it. He did not return them immediately. He says, Adaya Tatra Vijahara Veda Marga. Then he played with the Vedic knowledge, taking them in his mouth. So the description, Matsya Avatarama hai, Matsyo Bhavina Vyavastena Manuna Drishta. This fish was seen by the future Vyavasvat Manu, because he was actually King Satyavrata. Shonimaya Prithvi Pradhan Tadashraya. And Lord is called, sometimes the boat is called as personification of earth, sometimes the fish or the Lord is called as like the earth. Nikhilanam Chaturvidhanam Eva Jiva Sanghanam Keta Ashraya. And he was the shelter of all the four types of living beings. There are four types of living beings: those who take birth from the womb, like human beings; those who take birth from the egg, like the birds; and those who take birth from the earth, plants, trees; and those who are born from heat, like you put some grains in a pot, after some time they are insects. Or we put these books and the insects come. So they are not coming from anywhere else, they just take birth there. They find a suitable atmosphere and they are just born without mother or father. So these four types of beings, they all took shelter of the Lord during the deluge. And then in the next cycle they create. Uru bhaye pralaya salile ye mukhad vishansrita vigalitan ved margan adaya vijahara. So at that time Brahma, he has dropped the Vedas and they were picked up by the Lord and protected. So Hagriva also protects the Vedas and Matsadeva also protects. And one more verse. Next, there is a description of Kurma avatar. Shiro dadhav viyuth panam unmadhatam amritalabdhaya adideva prishthen kachap kapurvidadhara gotram nidrakshano arivartakashana kandu. When demigods and demons, they wanted to churn the ocean, then a problem came. And the problem was that how to hold this big churning rod, the Mandar mountain. This was a mountain. So if they don't hold it on something, it will just go down the water. It has to be held up for churning. So at that time Lord appeared as a big tortoise. And he was holding the big mountain on his back. And when they started churning by using the snake Vasuki as the rope, then Lord was feeling very comfortable. It was as if somebody was itching on his back, like you have some itching and you are tired and somebody massages your feet and you fall asleep. So verse says that Lord, he closed his eyes and he fell asleep. So he was very much enjoying this scratching of the back. And they say that you scratch my back, I will scratch your back. So the demigods, they were scratching his back, so he was also helping them. So this was a nice combination. So it says, Shiro dadhau amara danava yutha panam. There was the hosts of demigods and demons churning the ocean. And unmadhatam amrita labdhaye adidev. They were churning the ocean to get nectar. Then Adideva, the original Lord, Pristhene Kachap Vapur Vidadhara Gotram. So he was holding, Gotram means mountain, on his back in the form of a big tortoise. Nidra Chanodri Parivartaka Shanak. And when this was moving, then this was rubbing on his back and it was very nice. Especially if you get this athlete's foot, if you have experienced athlete's foot, no? Athlete's foot is a type of disease which you get between your toes of the feet. If there is water there and it remains wet and you put on socks or something, then the skin becomes soft and some germs develop there, and it's a very intense itching sensation. So then you feel like itching and it is very relaxing. So it was something like that Lord Kurma, he was getting the comfortable feeling when Mandara mountain was moving on his back. So therefore he says, Brahma says that Nidra Kshano Adri Parivartaka Shanakando, that he was falling asleep. And Kshana means movement, Kshana also means festival. So it is like he was having a festival of sleep, happily. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Kurma Avataramaha Shiro Dadhaviti. This verse describes Kurma Avatar. Amrit Labdhaye Chirabdhim Unmathtam Ya Amrit Labdhis Tasse Gotram Mandar Girim Dadhar. When the demigods and demons, they were churning the ocean for getting nectar, then Lord, he held Mandara mountain on his back. Nidrayam Kshanaya Avsara Utsavo Vayasyasa. And this became a festival for sleeping. Usually in festival you want to remain awake, but this was a festival of sleep for him. Because Kurma, the tortoise, they like to sleep very much. They don't do much. So he was happily sleeping. Tatra hetu. And why was he falling asleep? Says Adrehe parivartena paribhramanena kashana kashyamana duri kriyamana kanduriyasya kas himsayam yagbhava. So he says because he was having itching sensation on his back, and if a tortoise has itching sensation, then how can he remove it? He cannot reach with his legs or with his neck. Very difficult, very big problem. This morning I was seeing one bird outside my window sitting, and at least for 15 minutes she was always like scratching her body with the beak, going this way, this side, that side. So we have hands, therefore we don't realize that if you don't have hand and you have an itching sensation, how will you feel? It's a very big problem. So imagine Kurma having itching. So now finally he got the solution, that he got this Mandara mountain on his back and it was itching, scratching his back. And thus his feeling of itching was removed and he felt very comfortable and he fell asleep. So this is description of Kurma avatar. Then next is Nrsimha avatar that we will read tomorrow.